Hey, I'm Nick Taylor with the Crafty Jensen. Today we're at Eastbound Brewing Company in Riverside, which is Toronto, Ontario, and we're joined by Dave and Tara Lee, who are the head brewer and head chef. What's the first beer that we have in these four here that you want to get after?
I guess we'll start with sort of our lighter offering. This is Backpacker Blonde Ale. It's been around with us for a little while, but it's new in the LCBO now. It's our first LCBO listing, so it's starting to get picked up a little bit here and there in stores. So ask for it at your LCBO. You can get that listed. But let me pour it for you guys. It's a pretty straightforward blonde ale. And we sort of thought about it as not necessarily entry level, but sort of an introductory beer for a lot of people getting into craft beer. It's a little lighter in color, still golden.
I do find a lot of people that are just getting into craft beer are like, I really like the blonde ales. Like that's a big thing people say, right? So it's a good introductory beer for sure.
Still a ton of flavor, very like bready, crisp is how we describe it. So there's still tons of flavor to it, and I think it's a departure from like a Coors Light, something like that. Right. But it's just sort of people come in here and they're not quite, they want to get into the scene, but they kind of have to have some training wheels kind of thing, and then that's a little bit of it.
We try it out.
Yeah, cheers.
Yeah. Cheers. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, sure.
It is very flavorful.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of honey malt in it. It gives a lot of the color, a lot of the golden color, a little bit of sweetness to it as well. And then has some Willamette hops to kind of balance it all out. But, nice straightforward beer. It's been pretty well received. We brewed it quite a bit to keep it in stock, so it's a very good thing.
I guess now you'd have to, right, being in the LCBO?
Yeah. So the LCBO, we just got in, like a week and a half ago or so, we put it in. And we're going to be canning that quite a bit more now to kind of grow in the stores. We're taking it slow with it, but soon, I think we'll be all over Ontario, I suppose.
Very cool.
Yeah.
One thing that stands out to me about Eastbound is like the atmosphere within the space. I know like the build of the brewery was like really well documented online before you guys opened. What was that process like? And were there like key things that you wanted to make sure you had when you were designing it?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about space. It's kind of a crazy space to put a brewery into. And I mean, so long and narrow, but also the elevation changes, the fact that it's a brewery about 16 feet down from ground level. Right. I mean, initially when we were evaluating the space, we were trying to evaluate whether we could fit everything in. Also evaluating, like everybody does, like what do we need exactly to satisfy it. I think we did a pretty good job with it. I mean, you're never going to be perfect with your planning on it, but the consideration was just sitting around like measuring it a million times, and then when the real stuff actually shows up, looking at it and being like, okay, is it the size they said it was, and fitting it all in and actually getting it down there into the space too. It wasn't like we had a warehouse space where we could just like forklift it in straight and turn them up. Like we had to bring all the tanks in sideways and pivot them up and then lower them down. And it was 2 days in the middle of the winter.
2 days of the year.
Yeah, it was cold. It turned out to be the coldest 2 days of the year of that winter, and like one of them was like a blizzard. We're putting them in. And
cool. Should we try the next beer here in this lineup?
Yeah, what do we got? Dashboard Hula. So this is our Hibiscus Lemongrass Saison. It's our second year making it. It's super popular. It's starting to get out into a few bars across Toronto. So it's sort of a classical saison base to it. And then what we did is we added hibiscus and lemongrass to it. We pretty much made a tea from it, and then post-fermentation put it into the fermenter. So it gives sort of those tropical notes. The lemongrass gives sort of a spiced tea flavor to it. But yeah, no, I mean, it looks really cool in the glass. So that's nice. Get kind of those berry aromas when you smell it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is very fruity, very berry.
It has a nice dry finish to it, which I think is really nice too, and it appeals to. We get so many different types of drinkers in here, not necessarily always beer drinkers, and so people who might go towards like a rosé or something like that would also really like this.
Quite a bit to rosé. It really has a dry, crisp finish to it, which I think for a number of our beers, a pretty dry finish to it, which is sort of like what we're doing. And then, but yeah, it's been pretty well received. It's kind of a fun beer. Like when it came out, you just saw it dotting all the tables because it stands out so much with the bright colors. So that's cool.
One thing that really stood out to me is like lemongrass in beers. That's one thing before I started drinking craft beer, I never had heard of in drinks.
Sure,
and then now I don't think I've tried one where I've been like, oh, I'm not a fan of that. I'm always like, I have to try this because it has lemongrass.
It's an interesting flavor.
Yeah, it lends, I think, a bit of pepper, a bit of spice. This is also one of the beers we could kind of talk about that it does well with the kitchen. There's sort of...
Yeah, it's a great food beer because it is dry. So it holds up to anything acidic and things like that, but also light enough that over the summer we have ceviche and things like that on the menu, and so it still holds up to those kinds of things too.
Yeah, and sort of how we built the beer too. We sometimes go back and forth how different flavors are going to be represented.
That's actually a good transition because the one thing that I think really sets you guys apart relative to other breweries is your food menu, right?
Yeah.
I feel like, a lot of breweries, they'll have food pop-ups or a few select options because they're primarily focused on the beer, which is cool. But with you guys, it's not an afterthought at all. It's the forefront of your identity, right?
Yeah, even from when Dave was working at a small brewery, even before I went to school for brewing, I was cooking. And that was always, it was never I want to open a brewery or I want to open a restaurant. We always, from the beginning, said we'd love to do it together because it just makes so much more sense. I came up in wineries, and so pairing food with what you're drinking is kind of a little bit of my background, and I've always found it easier and a little bit more fun to pair with beer because it stands up to a lot of those big flavors, spicy foods, things like that. You don't really have to worry about the beer will equal it most times as opposed to being overpowered. But there are beers that have the subtlety to it, sometimes like this, or even the Backpacker, things like that. So yeah, it's fun to kind of play off each other.
Also using the food ingredients too, the more traditional savory ingredients or spices or whatever to use that in a beer and try to we have a few like that. Dashboard, I think, is one of them. Pumpkin beer, like I mentioned.
We used Chinese 5 Spice in the Christmas beer the past couple of years.
Yeah, we used the Christmas
really cool.
beer's a big one for that. Nerve tonic. Sort of a gin kind of based beer, so a lot of botanicals and things in it. So, but sometimes I'm using her suppliers for some of the stuff, and it's kind of cool.
That's one thing that I want to ask you because pairing beer with food, the way when you typically go to a restaurant, it's you get your drink order, then you do your food order. They kind of treat them as separate entities.
Yeah.
So is that difficult to try to create dishes that?
It is. It can be tough. We can make suggestions. Where we really get to play is when we do dinners because we can say we specifically came up with this dish to go with this beer. It's a little bit tough when people come in and they're just going to order whatever they want. But I would say that there's enough things on the menu. There's very few things on the menu you're going to get and be like, that's terrible. It does not go well together. Just with my style of cooking, I like to use a lot of vinegar. I like to pickle and preserve and that kind of stuff. And I feel like that goes really well with beer, especially with beer being very cleansing. So if you have something that's quite acidic or a little bit spicy, it'll kind of wipe the palate clean and then you start with the next bite.
Cool. Should we try the third one here?
Yeah.
Plowing through these. It's great.
So this is part of our Fresh Start series. So that's our single hop series. This one's Chinook. It's actually from VQH Farms. So local Ontario hop grower. So that's kind of a added kind of bonus to it. It's kind of fun. But we did the Fresh Start series to really showcase a hop to the drinker, and then they can see how it influences it, how it stands on its own. So it's got a malt bill that provides some nice body, some nice foam to it, but really doesn't get in the way of the hop. And So we hop it late in the whirlpool and then pretty heavily dry hop it.
I love that idea. I know a few people that do that, like a few different breweries that do that. And it's such a good call. You can kind of introduce everybody to like different styles, different flavors that way.
Yeah, and it it's sort of like a grape varietal thing. Like it really kind of showcases the ingredients, right? And in this case, something local, which is kind of cool. So we've worked through a ton of different ones. I mean, I think there's over a dozen of them, and people really like it. Occasionally we have two of them on tap at the time, so people like to compare it. And we usually can. I think we've canned every one of them. So, and some of them have returned as well. Like they're particularly popular, but it's a popular series, I think, for us.
Cool.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
So the Chinook, like it's a little bit earthy, but pine. This is the Ontario grown one, so it actually differs a little bit from the American Pacific Northwest a little bit, just in a few characteristics. I find this a little more earthy, maybe. This is one of our more popular ones. We've done it twice now with the VQH hops.
I recently started brewing beer on my own at home, and the first beer I made was a Chinook single hop IPA. This is exceedingly bad, I will say. It's not even in the same category at all. But Dave, you started at Mill Street, right?
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people like to draw this line between like macro breweries and craft breweries, but are there big things you took from that you applied here at Eastbound?
Yeah, I mean, tons. I started there at a really good time. We were probably what you'd call a regional brewery at that point, still making quite a bit of beer. And during my time there were about 5.5 to 6 years. During my time there was a tremendous amount of growth. It became regional or provincial maybe, to Canada-wide. So quite a big bump. So I would say like just process and consistency was learned there quite a bit. Also just like for a big portion of my time there at the beginning, it was like myself and another brewer, actually Sam from Sawdust City, we were like the two brewers there at Mill Street. Like there's radio ads and everything else like going that makes it sound like we're this big operation. And it was pretty big, but like we were the two guys and there were some cellar guys and a filtration guy. But it was like, so we were at one point doing like 6 brews a day, got up to like 9.5 brews a day. So it was the kind of thing that you were there for 6 years, but you got like 12 years of experience because you were just brewing so much every single day. Like it grew to a system that you had 4 brews going on at once. So, you saw so many things. You saw so many things go wrong too, like things breaking or whatever, and then you knew how to fix them because you had to. You worked in a team of people, so that helped me quite a bit. Just like timing and process and how to schedule and move things along. But yeah, it was just like so much brewing, so much beer all at once that it was like, I learned a ton. It was like busy time. So
That's sweet. When I look at the menu and like in the fridge today, there's a lot of German style beers and then like American Pale IPAs. Is that typically how you would describe what you offer here? I know you have the blonde ale as well, and
we're kind of all over the place. I mean, there has been probably a pretty good German influence. I mean, some of my schooling was in Germany, so maybe that's part of it.
makes sense.
Yeah, but at times of the year we'll have like 3 or 4 Belgian beers in the fridge too. Like in the wintertime we did a Belgian double, a golden ale, a Belgian IPA, and I guess the Christmas beer was sort of we just called it a Christmas beer, but
it does seem like there's like a ton of different styles that you guys have like played on, right? Like even you have Goza's here now too, right? Like, is there anything that you don't expect to play on, or are you just gonna keep branching out, keep?
Yeah, I don't want to really put like a never kind of label on anything.
Yeah. Should we get on this last one here?
Yeah. Is Let's Go Exploring. That's our one of our double dry hopped IPAs. That's like one of the flagship beers, along with Backpacker and or Hidden Like Hef, and a few others. But this was this was in the original lineup. I guess this is the only beer of these 4 that was in the original lineup. The recipe hasn't really changed at all from the beginning. So it's hopped with Idaho 7 and Simcoe.
What was the other? There's 2 others in the original, right? Original lineup.
Base Camp Saison.
Yeah, Base Camp Saison, and that's still
Hefeweizen.
that's still kicking, Hidden Like Hefeweizen, and we did a porter at the very beginning as well.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers. So tons of hoppy aroma on that.
So good.
Again, really late hopped, the end of the whirlpool. And then we hop it again, or dry hop it with Idaho 7 and Simcoe. So it's a really nice combination. I find that it's got mostly, pine and a little bit of earthiness to it, a little bit of fruit, but not overwhelmingly like that.
I was gonna say I like how it does have this like fruity mix mixed in with that piney, almost like resiny.
It's like a touch of West Coast IPA,
but it still has the tropical vibes to it as well, which is cool.
Yeah. And it's been pretty popular. We don't probably have it in stock as much as we should, and we're trying to.
It's probably the beer people ask for the most, especially like as soon as we sell the last can, people are like.
Yeah. So, it's a fun beer. The name's cool. Like, let's go exploring. Kind of talks about the whole place. That's the whole idea of Eastbound, the whole idea of the trailer, the whole idea behind it all. I mean, part of it's like exploring new beers, exploring new flavors, exploring new foods, all that kind of stuff. But also just, like I think that relaxed vibe you're talking about, like sort of chilling out or whatever, and just enjoying sort of what comes to you and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, and that's probably my favorite. Yeah, it's probably my favorite beer.
I forgot to bring this up, but you guys like weekly food specials, and in addition to that, you have like tons of events that happen every week too, right? Like I think about like the Monday Run Club and Trivia and Eastbound Soul. Is there one that stands out as like a fan favorite? I feel like the Monday Run Club is like taking on.
The Monday Run Club has grown exponentially. Like every week, there's more and more and more people. It's amazing. Yeah, it's so. As a runner, I won't be offended. Yeah, I think it's nice. The West End tends to have a lot of things, has all of those run clubs and all that kind of stuff, and we're slowly seeing them pop up here. A lot of people have moved from that side of the city, younger couples, so they're just looking for a nice social. I mean, in Toronto, you kind of, if someone doesn't want to go out at night and be out, maybe they're by themselves, they can come to the run club and it's nice and social, and you get to have a beer after and a walk away from home, which is really cool.
I have friends that live in Bellwoods right now, and they're like, we're thinking about moving to Leslieville. Yeah. So just so you know, people are migrating over here.
Great. This, like I said, we've been here 2.5 years, and this neighborhood has changed so much just in that amount of time. We think about
a lot
all
of
the
buildings
time too.
getting built around us, like residences and stuff.
So definitely Run Club, and I would say Trivia has taken off.
The Wednesday night Trivia is kind of like a
we have an undefeated team.
Hardcore.
They've started to take every other week off because they win so
I think they've lost a little bit, no?
I think they've lost like one time.
Yeah, they're a pretty dedicated group. We've got some other groups in it.
It's their team is Heart of Dorkness.
Yeah.
But and they do a great job. But yeah, people come out and it's fun. We get like the whole place playing, which is really kind of cool too.
Yeah, Trivia is big at a lot of people.
Yeah, and the guy who does it for us is really fun. He keeps
Peter.
it current. And
I think I'm impressed with the dedication of like the following that's developed. And I think as we're getting into, we're slowly getting into fall and winter, I think it's probably going to get even a little bit more following. Because I don't know, I feel like Trivia is a winter sport or something.
Yeah.
But
there's interesting connectedness to a lot of our events too. They'll be like, oh, I came to Trivia and I heard about your pickle class, or I was here for a birthday party and now I'm coming for this. And so yeah, it's nice to see those things kind of sticking with people, that they had such a nice time that they're like, oh, we're back. They come back all the time.
Very cool. Well, thank you guys so much for having us. Really appreciate it. It was great talking to you guys. Thank you.
You.
Thank you. Awesome. That's it. We're good.